about 4 years on the money here. And as I mentioned, the kids night in, and I know I might have looked pretty calm and cool and collected, but I was like kind of panicking on the inside because I didn't know what I never really felt like I knew what I was doing. And the truth be told, sometimes I still don't, but it's like, I think that might be the case for a lot of us here. But you were always a great support. You always brought a voice of reason, and you're this, I don't know, it's like they talk about duck theory where it's nice and calm on top of paddling like mad underneath. I don't know if that was, but it's like you always brought that kind of this serenity and this, I don't know, it was just great. You always brought a real stable position on every topic that I can recall, and there have been a lot. You're a great mentor for me, and I truly appreciate that, and you will be missed. So thank you very much.
Lori, do you have anything to add?
It's been a pleasure serving with you. Thank you for your insights when I was running for this position, and since I've been a counselor, really appreciate it.
Tom, it's not an easy thing, as I learned very quickly in my time on council, to sometimes have people with high emotions, particularly negative ones, talking to you about things that they're not happy about. And I've always admired that you handle those situations with humor, appropriate humor, and a good, calm demeanor. And that's really a skill that I hope I can develop more as I grow and learn. And we'll miss just the volume of knowledge of the history of the council, of what's gone on in the town, of all the issues. Some folks may have gotten the impression or understand that government moves at a glacial pace sometimes, particularly municipal government. And it's been a really wonderful resource to have someone who knows so much about these long progressions of issues and things that have gone on in the community. And we're really going to miss that. I mean, we'll probably still make you participate in some way. So, and I'll see you at the pickup line, because your grandkids and my kid.
Yes. And I'm only going to be, I'm not even a year yet. I think next week. A year next week. And I appreciate the calmness too. There's you have some kind of essence that just kind of permeates that none of us have, I don't think, that we're gonna miss. And I am so excited to move down a seat. So so thank you for that. And thank you for serving and all the fun stuff. And for always passing the documents this way. We're gonna.
There is experience.
Thank you.
I always noted that document passing thing, by the way, sitting down on this end. It's like, oh, there's the last one to sign everything. So.
Well, and Tom, I talked to a little bird. A bird, one of your younger children, about what might be of interest to you, and they told me that you like to watch the wind and the weather, and so the council has gotten that for you to put on your wall. You can call us and tell us it's windy today, and
wow,
and
the weather's changing.
and at the staff recognition luncheon, the town had given Tom a plaque, which is going to be put in the gardens in the front of the town office. And so this is what the real life plaque looks like. Tom got a framed copy of it. So we thank you for your service. Yeah. Don't know if you want to add anything or you want to wait for acknowledgments.
I think I'll wait for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will move on to approval of minutes of February 11th and February 25th, 2019. I'll take a motion, please.
So moved.
All right. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on the minutes. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearings. Public hearing A. To consider ordinance amendments to the Town of Orono ordinances, repealing and replacing Chapter 26 Parks and Recreation to include regulation of town-owned parks and open space. Mitch is on deck.
Mitch Stone, Parks and Rec Director. I just want to take this opportunity to kind of give some history and talk through this proposed ordinance. It's probably been about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we kind of took up the idea of the challenge of hunting on town property. And when that came up, we looked and talked about a lot of different things and realized that we didn't really have any ordinances for all of our places. We had some here and some there. And once we started kind of digging into it, we recognized that with public land, everybody has a right to use it. But the challenge we were starting to have was that some of these wants and how we used it were incompatible, hunting for one of those. And so when we started to look at it, we recognized that currently we have ordinances in this that talk about Neto Savoy Park and Goose Landing and the creative playground. That's it. We don't have, although there are signs up that say we have rules for Webster Park, there is no ordinance to back those up. So one of the things that we were looking to do was trying to figure out ways to create a mechanism so that we could have it be consistent and clear across all of our open spaces and parks. So when we started through this, there were some things that have happened along the way that have kind of helped guide us to get to the point we are now with the ordinance that we have. One of the main one was hunting inside of the in the no discharge area. We are actually in the firearms area. We are actually in the expanded archery zone for hunting. So by state law, it is legal to hunt within our without a firearm, but with bow and arrow. So this caused some concerns. We had some conflicts between hikers and hunters and those sorts of things. And so after long conversations in committee, we decided that was something we really needed to look at. With that said, what we came up with that, and I'm kind of picking some of the things that we've talked about quite a bit in committee. There are certainly other things in here we can discuss if need be. But that no person shall hunt, trap, or pursue wildlife in or through any public park/area, open space, or any area located within the designated no discharge area as described by section 24-27. No person shall erect a tree stand or hunting blind on town-owned or town-controlled property. So that was one of the big ones. The other issue that we ran into was dog owners. Our dog ordinance really talked about being under control, but we had some issues with, especially on our trail systems, where things kind of go from public to private property, and trying to maintain those relationships. Some of the challenges, and most of the challenges that we've heard about were dog challenges, dog waste not being picked up, and also dogs being off their leash and causing problems with landowners. So that was something that we looked at to address in this proposal. That piece was all dogs and other pets shall be leashed and under a responsible individual's direct control at all times when in a park/area or open space, including town-owned or town-controlled trails, in accordance with the Town of Orono Ordinance Section 6-37. All persons who own, possess, or control a dog is required to immediately remove and properly dispose of any feces left by their dog. No pets of any kind are allowed within the community playground. That piece right there was part of, in that discussion, was, although it is above and beyond state law, we feel it's really important because those were the problems that we were having on those trails. And which kind of leads me to the next thing that we were trying to address in this was we've talked a lot about our connectivity of our trails and talking with landowners about getting agreements or easements. And in order to do that, we need to have some sort of control. We need to have some sort of the ability to police those. It's really hard to ask for an agreement that you can't police anything with. And once again, those were issues that were coming up. So those are kind of the three major things. It is a complete repeal and replace because we didn't really have anything before for everything. We had, like I said, we had stuff that was specific to Neto Savoy Park and Gould's Landing with the boat launch and the community playground. Some of those things have been addressed in the ordinance. There is an additional rules for Neto Savoy Park that we felt didn't quite fit anywhere else that we wanted to make sure those were still in there.
I just want to clarify that this ordinance governs town-owned and controlled recreational spaces. Does not govern somebody has 10 acres of land and wants to allow people to hunt with archery. Their bow and arrow, they are welcome to do that. This is simply creating the standard for what people can expect when they recreate on town-owned or town-controlled property.
I don't know if there's any questions or.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that has a question or comment?
Susan Whitmore. Just pertaining to the discharge laws, I rather those remain intact. And
If I could just clarify for you,
Yeah.
Susan, we're not doing anything with the firearms discharge laws. What counselors were asking in committee is that we clarify. So places where people are not used to hunting happening,
Right.
there wouldn't be archery on town-owned property. However, there are some places where hunting has historically happened that is
Right.
owned by the town outside
right,
of the no discharge area. So
Right.
it is a way of making a boundary. We're not changing
right,
any laws. We're not doing anything around the discharge.
okay. So essentially on the trails, people are not permitted to discharge bows. Okay.
So
I just cringe at the idea of it because the running trails are such a wonderful system, such a wonderful resource here. And the idea of having any kind of potential weapon discharge, I mean, I understand a person's need to carry a weapon because there is a concern of bears. That's a real concern here. But yeah, in terms of the idea of any kind of weapon being discharged, yeah,
So just to clarify,
yeah,
within the no discharge area, which is essentially the middle of Stillwater Avenue, literally the middle of the road,
Mm.
east
okay,
in Orono,
right,
people wouldn't be allowed to discharge bows, arrows, guns, any projectile for hunting
right,
on town-owned or controlled property. On the other side, so if you go out by the Taylor Road, there are lots of trails out there. They are not governed with that piece of.
okay. And my other comment pertaining to the dog leashing laws, you know, years ago I was a dog owner myself, you know, and I'm just thinking, you know, perhaps there should be like a lenient clause where if there isn't anyone else around in the public space, then the dog can be off leash. But if a person comes around, the dog's gonna be leashed again in terms of, you know, it's good to let a dog be able to have its free run if, you know, as much as possible.
Susan, I'll tell you that I felt similarly years ago with my first dog, a very, very well-behaved golden retriever, and I probably took more credit for that behavior than I should have. And I liked to let him, he was completely voice command, would stop the second I said stop. He was very, very meticulously well-behaved. I now have 2 rambunctious, insane golden retrievers who, despite doing the same training with them, they would just excitedly run right up the trail. I would think no one was around for miles, and they would just bolt down the trail because they smell that person coming before I know they're there. So
Right.
as much as I understand why people have a problem with the dog leash thing, and I hope my dogs would be well trained enough at some point to not need a leash, but dogs are different, and there's the safety of the people on the trail, right?
I do hesitate at that statement and kind of tentatively retract, simply because I do recall last year I did have the encounter of walking along other pedestrians who had some very impressive pit bulls. And I'm a fan of pit bulls, but not a fan of pit bulls. I recognize those are very impressive dogs, though I don't like seeing them, especially one with the jaws I saw in the one. It is a very impressive dog, though I'm not happy to necessarily see it in a family-oriented town. Just the idea of any of my neighbor, midget, little kids being around those dogs, just not, yeah.
Just one more thing. It's also important, and I think this conversation came up when we were discussing it, but I think it's important to realize not everybody is a dog person, okay?
Yeah.
And I know some wonderful people, they're highly intelligent, well-educated, blah, 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 freak out if they see a dog at all. And that's their right to have their own thing. Is that therefore, if a friendly golden retriever or black lab comes just up just to say hi, it may be enough to put them in into a coma. So we need to be relatively considerate of that too,
Right.
because not everybody's going to be the same
Right.
place we are.
Right.
I want to just bring up the point that brought this all to a head with the dogs. It was actually private landowners that allowed the town a swath of land to use as a trail. And their issue was that dogs, when they're off leash, go all over the place. And you kind of expect that. But the all over the place that we perceive as being a trail is their front yard.
Yeah.
And it was causing heartburn for people who had dogs on runs, leashes, in kennels along the trail. And it was also, there was some destructive behavior. One of the issues when you put an ordinance in is it's all in how it's enforced. But I can't say, if you do these things, it's okay.
Right.
But if it does this, it's not.
Right.
When
Yeah.
everybody who takes their dog off a leash is going to think the dog is very well behaved and would never do those things. But
Right.
we were fielding complaints to the point of almost ending our ability to use the trail.
It is.
So it was bad.
All right. Find someplace else then to let the dog.
There you go. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I will close public hearing A. Move on to acknowledgements by council members, and I will start with Cheryl.
I would like to acknowledge all the children that came tonight and got up on the dais and passed anonymously their what are we calling it? Their proposal to put candy dishes. Sophie missed this. To put candy dishes on all the tables at Asa Adams.
I think there's a heavy emphasis on chocolate in
And
particular.
there was a heavy
yes.
emphasis on chocolate, but it was nice to see them and have them show up and speak and learn a little bit tonight. So I'd like to acknowledge all of those and their parents that brought them.
Yes, and then when we told them that we didn't run, you're going to love this, Sophie. When we told them that we
had to
didn't run the RSU anymore, they passed a resolution that the people up here should control the school. And I said, the BDN's going to be all over this. And we're going to be in trouble. So no, that was a mock resolution. It was not passed by town council. I would like to acknowledge, well, looking at the back of the room, which is set up for our municipal election tomorrow, I want to acknowledge the town staff and the volunteers who will dedicate their day tomorrow to making sure that the wheels of government are turning. So if you haven't already voted via absentee ballot, please do come in tomorrow. The polls open at 7. There'll be lots of smiling faces here ready to help you out. And you can vote for town council, school board, and we also have some questions about the charter amendments. And if you live in District 124, you can vote for a representative.
Tom.
So vote. But like I said, I've been here for 15 years and serving on the town council. And I really want to thank all the people on the council, all the wonderful staff, and the citizens that show up for these meetings and stop you in the aisle at Hannaford and so forth and give you their opinions. It's been very nice. And I wanted to talk about a few things that have happened while I've been here. And I'm not taking credit for these because it's really a teamwork. On North Main, we had an abandoned mill that the town ended up owning because of tax problems, and it became dangerous. And through the efforts of our development group, especially Evan, we were able to have that at no cost to the town other than giving them the land, had it torn down, remediated, and some houses have gone up there since. So back on the town roll so that we get tax money. So that's just one thing. Another one that comes up not as happy is we lost revenue sharing big time, just like most of Maine. And through the efforts of our staff, we were able to essentially maintain all the services that we had prior to that. We also, once again, we had some development in town, so our tax base grew a little bit. But through some very hard work of Sophie and her team, we were able to not cut any major things. Now, hopefully, we're going to see that money return, but we'll see what happens. One of the other things, one of several things that happened while I was here was the Black Bear Express came into being, which is a free bus from the campus back to here and in other places here in town. The UCU in their new building, that, for those of you who don't know, that was the site of a very old historic building that burned down and potentially could have been an eyesore right in the center of our town. And working with UCU, they were able to redevelop that. We work with them. We put the parking lot in so that the parking lot can be used by them, and used it times when they're closed for all the places downtown, which was another issue we've always been looking at, is parking. So once again, all these things happen. It's not because of the people that necessarily set up here, but it's a teamwork among all those groups. Another couple of things, that we have a library and a commons area outside that library that were given to the town by volunteers who raised the money, built the buildings, worked with the town to make sure that the specs were right, and the town now has those. And so this is a great town, and people have put a lot of time and effort into it and money, and just as general citizens. And I'm happy to have spent 15 years also giving to the town as a town councilor. But now I have grandkids that are about to start in Asa Adams, and I want to be able to have my evenings open to attend whatever they're going to do, plays, athletics, whatever, and to go to their open houses and all those things. So, and I want to thank all you guys here. I should thank my family too. They're probably watching. Thank you. They put up with me not being there at various times, and but I really want to thank the counselors that are here and the ones that are not here. And the staff. The staff has been tremendous.
Thank you, Tom. Lori?
Sam usually talks about our kids and their winnings, but I'm first. So the Orono High School one-act play, group of students, directed by the students, so with no staff director. There's a staff person that's their advisor, but the students directed a one-act play. They took it to the regional one-act play festival, and which was at Lawrence High School this past weekend, and they came in first in their class, and so they will be going to the state competition, which is in Ellsworth in 2 weeks. So pretty exciting for those kids, and it's a tribute to Orono's performing arts that these kids had enough experience from working with the great staff at Orono High School to be able to do their own thing and come in first.
But I'm going to talk about the show choir, which also came in first. So thank you for leaving that window of opportunity. Congratulations to both Orono High School and Orono Middle School with their show choir performances that were, where were they? I can't remember where they're up in Millinocket, absolutely. Their state championship will be on the 30th of March. Go down and see it, support the arts. It's an amazing day of performance. 29th, I think, is the high school. The 30th is middle school and high school. Anyway, it's down at Lawrence High School for that championship. You should go support them. It's pretty amazing. Also, just a little plug for the facilities meeting that the high school is having. The school board is hosting. I think that's on the 21st. Go listen. Go see what they're talking about. Have your voice heard. Encourage everyone to do that. Pretty important stuff there. Pretty exciting, but very important to hear what's going on and to have your voice heard. Also, again, just to ride the coattails a little bit of Cheryl's mentioning Kids Night that we just had earlier tonight, Kids Night at Town Council. That's the first time we've ever done that. Is that true? That was fantastic. Cheryl, you brought that idea up, so kudos to you for spearheading that. It was fantastic. It was really fun to see them getting up here and sort of, yes, having some fun and that kind of thing, but just getting a taste of what it is to be involved with the community. You can't plant those seeds early enough. So I just want to use this as a reminder. All of us get involved. There are so many ways in this amazing community. What Tom said, it is an incredible community, and together we are stronger. So please do feel free to volunteer and get involved in any way you can.
Thank you, Sam. I would like to just acknowledge Belle Ryder for all of her work with OTO Fiber. She is headed down to Boston to the Post Road Foundation, which I understand is a possibility for long-term financial commitments to rural areas for expansion of internet service. So I thank her for all of her hard work, and hopefully it will be fruitful for us when she gets back. So moving on to unfinished business. I don't think we have any. Consent agenda. I will take a motion to move the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Passes unanimously or anonymously, however you want to see it. And now moving on to new business. Order 1935, order adopting ordinance amendments to the Town of Orono ordinances, repealing and replacing Chapter 26 Parks and Recreation to include regulation of town-owned parks and open space. I'll take a motion. So moved.
Second.
All right. Council, we heard from Mitch earlier for public hearing. Is there any more questions or comments that council has on this?
Yes, I wanted to talk about section 2627, bathing and swimming, because it's not something that came up. And so for folks playing along at home who don't have the language in front of them, it says, Part A, designated areas except as otherwise provided, no person shall swim, bathe, or wade in the waters of any fountain, pond, pool, stream, or other body of water, or in adjacent to any public park/area, an open space, or any tributary, stream, storm, sewer, or drain flowing into such waters. It goes on to kind of talk about the swim at your own risk, no lifeguard on duty, water not tested. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought maybe we could hear from Mitch about, there are some areas in town that are very popular in the summertime for people to throw themselves into the cool waters of the Stillwater River, such as Brownies Beach and Summer Street Park and Webster Park. So I thought maybe folks might want to hear a little bit about any changes they may or may not have in their summer bathing routines.
So as of right now, the spots that you had talked about where people are traditionally swimming would be posted with there is no lifeguard, swim at your own risk. Would not be a place that was closed unless something else did come up.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that people like and enjoy those things, and we don't want to change that. But just recognizing that there are risks involved in all, a lot of the different places that you swim, and that they need to be aware of those. So that really is more of a educational piece for them than anything else. So we're looking to close any of those places, and really would be looking at if there were things that have come up that are dangers that we don't know. And the Stillwater is a challenge because it changes all the time about what's in the river and what moves through there sometimes. So just trying to make sure that people are safe and what they're doing.
So it would be fair to say that we're only looking at making sure that we can keep those areas as safe as possible so people can continue enjoying them.
Yes.
Right. And in case anybody read this and was nervous that what it meant was you can't swim anymore in any of these town-owned areas, which is not what it's saying.
Right.
Good. And Mitch, I had the same section kind of highlighted. So those areas are posted now, or they will be posted?
I believe that actually some of them are already posted, and that was in response to some water testing that came up, but questions about water testing. We just wanted people to know that. But yes, there are some, and whether they're right at the actual area or at the park, like Webster Park, the sign was up near the Webster Park sign, not necessarily next to the water. There is a sign at Brownies Beach as well that's right down there.
So when it says designated waters is unsafe, how do you determine, like it says director determines an especially dangerous or harmful condition? How do you determine that? What are we using as our guidelines?
We're going to use our resources.
Okay.
Wildlife is going to be helpful. In the summertime, Bushaw, there are complaints from time to time about stuff in the water, especially in shallow water that doesn't turn over. So those are resources that we use, but we would also use the fire department if we see something happening at Webster and they're saying this is dangerous. Our fire department is a water rescue. They are trained to look at that kind of stuff. Those are the situations that we would really be looking for. I want to go back, Cheryl, to your question about signage.
Oh, yeah.
We had a little bit of the chicken and egg thing happening here first. But in order for our police department to be able to enforce even the safety regulations, we had to have an ordinance behind it. So the goal was to get the ordinance in place, and then we're going to start with our major parks and open spaces with new signage and move on to the trails. That's the goal. As people on council like to tell me frequently, we move at a glacial pace. Hopefully this will be faster than glacial, but probably not like mass.
Okay. I think I was curious about that, that section B, under bathing and swimming, because it doesn't really, I mean, it says the director shall by posting, but it says the director determines, in which the director determines pose an especially dangerous or harmful condition. But it isn't technically just you, Mitch.
No,
It's consultants and
Absolutely.
right, and
Absolutely.
different
Yep.
entities that
Yep.
come into play. Okay.
just like I would do with trails, things like that. I you know, it is a group effort. There's enough knowledge out there that I would go seek that out for making those decisions.
Does our ordinance need that kind of language? Or are we okay with this, or that it's not just Mitch who's out there going, oh, you can swim here today and tomorrow maybe not?
I think we
I know
probably,
you wouldn't do that.
but I think we probably have to have that authority rest somewhere.
Right.
And so it makes sense to have it in one person. And then we understand that he's gathering information all the time, but
And ultimately, just because of the structure, it all comes back to your town manager.
I'm good, thank you.
anybody else have any questions or comments?
So the signs will be there all the time, or they'll be there sometimes?
The signs would be there all the time, designating, telling people that there was no lifeguard on duty, those sorts of things. If there was a situation where we had to close something that was designated a swim at your own risk, those would come up, and then we would make that determination as long as it needed to be until it was safe. You know, so it wouldn't
So
be
they're still allowed to swim. The sign just says you're swimming at your own risk
yes,
because
yeah, and
there's
it
no
explains
lifeguard.
that we don't test the water, that there's no lifeguard, things of that nature, so that people are aware.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. Council satisfied? Thank you, Mitch. I will take a vote on Order 1935. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 1936, order adopting the Orono Town Council Practices and Policies Manual. I'll take a motion, please.
So moved.
All right. This is something that's really council-driven. We had talked about at one of our last work plans or around budget time about a set of parameters in which council would work in, and hopefully some helpful information as well for new councilors. So it's been put together. Council's reviewed it several times, but if there's any more questions or comments about it before we take a vote? If not, I'll take a vote on Order 1936. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moving on to council committee and representative reports. Megan, do you want to start?
Sure. The Comp Plan Implementation Committee met on March 4th, and we had one major thing to discuss, which was a continuation of the short-term rentals issue. Primarily, we're looking at our ordinance language and realizing that it was drafted before such things as Airbnb and VRBO and those kinds of apps were popular or as prevalent as they are now. So we were discussing ways in which we could perhaps have more say over the safety of those properties, the same way that we're concerned about the safety of rental properties for college students who are going to be staying in a place for 9 months or 12 months, that we are also concerned about people who are coming to the town for a short period of time, and the safety of those places. So we discussed primarily ways that we could register those properties so that we would know what was going on in there and whether they were safe for people to rent. And that conversation will continue. And then the Orono Historical Society met last week. If you've been out through the foyer over there, the display case has changed. The artifacts that the Historical Society put in there are about local businesses over the years. Some very cool photos of some businesses that are still here and some that that no longer exist, with little photographs and artifacts from those businesses. The Historical Society also talked about the Civil War monument that was restored and is now in our cemetery out on Bennick Road. And they've asked me to look into sort of a rededication ceremony. So I'm talking to Sophie about that now, and we'll share more information about that when it's available.
Thank you. I'm going to pitch it for Sam for community development, who had another more pressing event that day. So there were two items that were discussed that evening. We began a discussion on putting standards and permitting for the farmers market. And this was brought to council's attention, not because of anything problematic with the farmers market. It is run very well, and we would like to memorialize the way it works with the town. So if we have another market open or food trucks come into town, we can have a way to regulate their operations as well. And this was the first time this item was discussed about permitting. And staff was given some parameters from the council committee and objectives and research, which they will do and bring back to us for further discussion. And the second item was a fire department is going through a strategic planning exercise over the next 6 months or so. And they're going to be meeting with stakeholders and holding community forums to determine if the fire department is meeting the needs and expectations of the community. And this is something akin to our comprehensive plan that the town had for the fire department. And Chief Lowe will be reporting back to council later in the year on how that went. And I'm sure that we will have further advertisements about community forums and when people can give their information or give us some information. Don't believe we had finance.
We have moved finance and operations to the third Tuesday of the month to allow books to be closed on a monthly basis, and also a little bit more timely information before council meetings.
Yep.
8 a.m.
So we will have it later in this month. Next week. All right, now moving along to future agenda items and items of concern. We'll start with Sam.
Nothing.
Lori?
Nothing that I can think of. Thank you.
Right. Tom? No concerns whatsoever. Megan? Cheryl?
I have written down, change out the trash cans in the basin, Orono outside days, and lights on the soccer field. I don't know if those are future agenda items or.
Well, the lights
Were
on the
mentioned
soccer
from
field
our
might be a little bit
list.
hard for us
Okay.
because that's the school. But
I just wanted to acknowledge this. These are things that were brought up at our council meeting. Yeah.
Actually, City,
yes,
There is one, of course. No, my nose is running. Sorry. I know we have in a few weeks we have some students from UMaine coming in to talk about the possibility of reducing plastic and perhaps even banning that sort of thing. From this position, I thoroughly support that, and I hope we can explore that. I hope that is something that's coming up somewhere down the road. I think probably there's been a lot of movement in sort of the more green sphere of things, and I'm sure that's part of it. But I just do support that. At this point, until we know more about what that would mean, but I hope that is something that we can continue after that discussion as well.
all right. Public petitions. Don't believe we have any public comments.
Again, I would simply like to congratulate Thomas on his retirement from council. I've seen him here numerous years. So I'll be a familiar face returning to the crowd. Their council meeting still occurs, so if he misses the environment,
He's always welcome back.
Exactly. And to those who celebrate the holiday, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you very much, Susan. Yes, ma'am.
So I don't usually comment during public comment, but I have a couple. First, on behalf of staff, I really want to thank Councillor Spitz. Anytime that we have called with a need, he has risen to the challenge, helped us pick up the fire chief at one point, helped extensively with the fireworks ordinance, has just been, reminds us that we have to think beauty, not just function, as a way, and is appreciated for the support that he has given staff over his tenure. Really will miss you. So that's comment number one. Comment number two is that along with being a counselor, Councillor Spitz also raised community-minded children. And his son, Ryan, who serves as Orono's representative to the House of Representatives, worked with the town council to get the Main Street Bridge renamed. And in honor of Brandon M. Silk, it is the Brandon M. Silk Memorial Bridge, forevermore. And it might seem like a small thing. We wrote a letter, we talked about it a little bit, and we gave that to Ryan to go carry that message down to Augusta. The word has gotten out that that has passed in the legislature. And the feedback that we are getting, I am getting in my office about how meaningful that is and how important it is, was a little surprising to me. And I think it warrants your understanding that small things really do matter, and they are what make. So thank you very much for your support, but it's also my public acknowledgement of Representative Tipping. He has been a great supporter of the town of Orono. And my last is a shout out to our town clerk. I have learned that along with running around for the election tomorrow, the town of Orono has been selected as a site that the Secretary of State's office is sending their some new employees up to train with our town clerk to learn how to run a municipal election. That speaks volumes about her credibility and her expertise.
That is fantastic. All right. We have an executive session that we're going to go into shortly. So that means no public involvement in that. We will not have any votes or anything taken after that. So for all intents and purposes, the meeting is over for public. So I will take a motion to go into executive. I'm sorry.
We have a lot of people here.
Did you guys want to speak? No.
We're here for a class.
Okay.
So
What I was saying is
we
we're
will mark your
adjourned.
attendance here.
Would
All
one
right,
of
so
would one of you
let
tell
the
us?
record show.
Would one of you tell us about why you're here? Okay, go up. Thank you.
Professor will know you're here and
Yeah,
nobody
right.
else.
If Uli's watching this, hi. That'd be really funny if he was. Anyway, so we're part. Oh, also Sam's here, and also Kaylee. Oh, they're all on camera. Okay, so there's evidence then. So we're all, well, basically the whole back row and Damon. Sorry, gesture. We're all here part of CMJ 347 at the University of Maine, which is argument and critical thinking. So our professor, whose name's actually Ulrich Regler, but we all just call him Uli, wants us to come to
like a public meeting and see how that works and compare that to like how other forms of communication work to get decisions made and that sort of thing. So he literally wants us to be like, well, the room's set up this way, and that's how that affects decision making on a subconscious level. So it's like a pretty in-depth paper and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Am I missing anything, guys?
I think you did a great job.
All right.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
You'll get extra credit for that. Yeah, we will. Right. Yes.
Can I just bring people's attention to the list of meetings that is in front of you? And in accordance with our decision last year, technically I think it was last year, we have gone through and tried to work around the holidays that were not town observed holidays, but rather holidays that were important. And I just want people to see that in May, we are observing Ramadan, but we couldn't do the business of the town by not meeting. So when I contacted what he indicated was that ending the meeting prior to sundown would be adequate observance and would allow people to participate. So when you look at May, just understand those are going to be some brief meetings. They'll last about an hour and a half.
We'll appreciate it. All right. I will take a motion for executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 405 6D to discuss collective bargaining with IAFF Local 3106 and Maine Association of Police, Orono Unit.
Motion to
Move
go into
it.
executive session.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I will take a vote. All those in favor of going into executive session? We are unanimous. We are in executive session. Thank you.